Now I'd like to invite Shaletha Parks to the stage. Can make sure your mic is on. Okay, here we go. Okay. So we're really lucky to get to hear from Shaletha Parks today. And Shaletha is one of our circle leaders in our first cohort, and she's also a member of our Big View team. So welcome, Shaletha.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So to start, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and why you're here?
Sure. Hi, my name is Shaletha Parks. I am a caregiver in home health. I am a part-time cashier food service worker for Chartwell's, Chartwell's company at the U of A. And I am a mother of 3 adult children. That's 1 daughter and 2 sons. And I am a nana of 6 granddaughters. That means 6 granddaughters, okay? And I also a circle leader. And the reason I am a circle leader is because I want to define my strength and break barriers and in our community with poverty. And I'm here today to share my experience with personal fines and fees.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the work that you've put in to prepare for this. She's put in a lot of time, a lot of hours, and just for leading us in this process. Okay, so we're here to talk about fines and fees. And can you talk a little bit about why the issue of fines and fees matters to you?
Yes, it matters to me because it affects my children, my son and daughter. It affects my husband, Titus. And it also affects me personally. And I have a lot of stories that I could tell. First, I want to start by sharing a story about my daughter. She was recently incarcerated on the 28th of October. And the reason why she was incarcerated is due to unpaid fines. So that led to her having a warrant prior to her trying to get her ducks in a row, moving up here from another city, trying to find a job, trying to find housing. And that didn't go so well with her. Just on a typical day, she was just leaving from work as she moved to Fort Smith, just starting, trying to get herself together. And just one day, she just got pulled over. And she got pulled over, and she was calling me. And when she called me, it touched me because seeing my daughter being pulled over by the police officer, and I was on the phone with her, and I was just trying to tell her, just calm down. She said, Mom, I'll probably be going to jail. And I said, why? She said, I have a warrant. I said, what is the warrant for? She said, for not having insurance on a car prior to her moving to Fort Smith. So as the officer approached her, she was asked to have her driver's license pulled out, and she said, I'm going to be honest, my license are suspended. And he said, why? She said, because I didn't have no insurance. So he went back to the car, and he came back 5 minutes later. He said, Miss Relford, can you please get out the car? I said, oh my gosh, you finna go to jail? She said, yes, Mama, I am. And so she did, and by her going into the back of the car, it kind of just made me feel helpless, where I couldn't help her at all because of the situation, while she was just trying to, make things better for her, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah, so this story, when we decided to do this theme tonight, this story hadn't even happened. So this is really new in her life and in your life. How has it affected her life?
Well, when she ended up going to court on the day of the 28th, prior to her getting a citation, which cost her $315 just for driving with suspended license, she ended up going to court, so that's like taking a day off when she couldn't take a day off. So she took a day off to go to court, not knowing she was going to go to jail, so the judge ended up giving her 18 days for the unpaid fine. So that means she lost her job. That means she had a house. She didn't know if she was going to come back to it. She ended up losing her car on top of that.
How did this make you feel as a mother?
Helpless, where I couldn't do anything for her. I couldn't reach out to her. I was not able to talk to her. Um, she lost her card because she wasn't able to pick up her check. I wasn't able to go pick up her check to pay her bills, to make sure she had a car. So it just hurt me to see my daughter go to jail.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that experience. Now, you've shared with me some of your personal experience with fines and fees, and one story in particular kept coming up, and it's the one about the $10 belt. Could you share that story with us?
Sure. Okay, I am 50 years old, but long time ago, I was going to J.C. Penney's with a friend, not knowing we was going in there to shop for a belt, but somehow we came out with a belt, and the belt was on her. And so as we was approaching to leave the store, we got caught, and she had a possession on her, and it was $10. But going to jail with handcuffs, riding in the back seat of a police car, I was like, oh my goodness, what I'm gonna tell my mom I'm finna go to jail behind a $10 belt. So I ended up going to jail, and I ended up having to be in front of the judge that day, and he gave me 7 days in jail because it was a misdemeanor and it was under $500. So anything under $500 is a misdemeanor. Anything over could be a felon.
So you went to jail simply because you were with your friend?
And I was accessory to the fact that she stole, and it was better for me to say I was guilty.
Hmm. That's really impactful, because I think that's actually counter to what a lot of us might think, is that it's actually better to say you're guilty than to not and be innocent. But that's what happened to you.
Yes.
So what does it feel like to stand before a judge?
Well, you have to be prepared to go in front of the judge. That's just like you have to be dressed and ready as you're going in for a job interview. You got to make sure you have to be there on time. You got to make sure that you have to have extra time to get there. If anything happens, like a delay, if your car breaks down, you're going to have to make sure you have to call the court clerk, and you have to let them know you're going to be late for that reason. And going in front of the judge, you have to be respectfully towards him. When your name is called, as Lindsay was saying earlier, you have to wait. So my name being as a P, I didn't get to see the judge till about 2:30 that afternoon. So from 10 to 2:30, you sitting and sitting while everybody else is being called. So once you get called, you have to go to front of a podium, and you will have to stand there facing the judge. And once the judge is talking to you, you have to listen to him, and you have to answer the question that he asked you. That means, do you understand these questions that I just read to you, or you know what the charges are here today? I said, yes, sir. So that means you have to say to him, yes, Your Honor, to him or her.
Mm-hmm. So what do you wish was different going before a judge?
What I wish would be different is that they would not incarcerate a person for a non-payment of paying a fine.
Mm-hmm. What kind of things do you wish they might consider?
Ask questions. Ask if they are ability to pay. Do you have a job? How much do you make? Can you afford to make this payment? So it goes to either you can pay the payment or you can ask to apply for community service.
I think it's really striking to me that the data is showing how many people are in jail because of failure to appear, failure to pay. That's a huge chunk of the people in our jail right now, which is not normally what I would picture of people being in jail. But when we were talking about this earlier, you gave me some good context for why people would fail to pay, fail to appear. What are some of those things that you've experienced or you've seen?
The failure to appear?
Yeah, why people?
Well, it's because jail overcrowding, for one, is why people are in jail, because they don't have the ability to pay. They don't have the money to bond out. You know, when they don't have the money to bond out, most people, is the reason why they don't show up for court. They end up with warrants because they don't show up to court. Failure to appear is where you don't show up for court. So when you don't show up for court, there is a bench warrant. So when you have a bench warrant and you get pulled over, oh, you have a warrant, so you go to jail on that warrant, then you got a court fees on top of that, then you got a payment on top of that. So it just don't go away. It just keep going and keep going.
Yeah. So Lindsay shared some about payment plans. Can you share with us a little bit about what that is and your experience with it?
Well, the payment plan is something that the judge would ask you if you are able to pay this fine. So if you say, yeah, you can pay the fine, that means he's gonna ask you to go out, talk to the clerks, set up a payment plan. You get a payment plan, and then it's a 30-day occurrence. So within that payment plan, the time that you make the payment, within 30 days, if you don't pay within 30 days, there's a $25 fee on top of that, added to the fee that you got to pay.
Yeah, this is the stacking thing that you were referencing. So when you think of all the other areas of your life, job, housing, paying bills, how are all these areas impacted because of fines and fees?
It can impact you by emotionally. It can stop you from owning your own home. It can impact you for the ability to find a job. It just don't stop. It just makes you feel helpless, like you try to put one foot in the door and the other one, just gets knocked down. So I just don't understand why it keeps making me struggle like it does, but it does impact me a lot because of my children and my husband being incarcerated.
Yeah, it sounds like it just requires so much. And I'm curious, what has this kept you from being able to do in your life?
Just basically, it keeps me down. It gives me a low self-esteem. It feels like when I'm driving, even though I have license, still today, if the police got behind me, I would still be nervous because it seems like you can be targeted just parking wrong, or I'm on the wrong side of the street. Just anything that you do or make a wrong turn, you can be targeted just for the small things. Even if your fence ain't painted on the right side. If your fence ain't painted right, you can get a ticket for it.
Yeah. And then it often results in having to go to jail.
Yes.
What has that experience been like?
Going to jail is mentally. It puts you in a situation where everything on the outside stops when you're inside because you don't know what's going on. So you in a cell, you go in booking, you get booked in, you get fingerprinted, you get a mug shot, and then you have a number. And once you have a number, that's registered. So that number will stay with you when you get out. When you get pulled over, it automatically will register you in the system.
Are there any other stories you'd like to share tonight?
I guess I would share this story. It happened with me and my husband. One night we was driving, and I was driving, and we was in a designated area of a community, and we happened to be leaving that area, and I got pulled over just because my light was out over my tag, and the officer pulled us over, and he said, I pulled you over because your light was out on your tag. And I said, okay, I can get that fixed. He said, well, do you know where you was coming from? I said, yes. He said, well, do you know the area you was in? Yes. He said, well, we was over there because that area is drug, known. I said, okay, what that have to do with me? He said, well, I would like to know if you knew anybody over there. I said, I don't know nobody, sir. I'm just trying to go home. He said, well, do you mind if I can get your license registration? I said, sure. He said, well, can you step out the car? And I said, for what? You're not pulling me over to search my car. He said, well, if you don't let me search your car, you could be lying. And I said, why am I lying about something that's not in my car, you think? So it goes to show you that you can get pulled over for one thing, and the next thing, they want to keep finding something until they can get you.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I can feel the frustration and stress and anxiety in that story, and really it's hard for someone like me, I think, to know what that experience is like, because that hasn't happened to me before. So for our final question, I would like to know why you think this is an issue that should matter for us as a community.
I think as our community, I think the issue matters is because, for one, it's hard enough for me as a mother trying to already pay my bills, let alone trying to pay the fines and fees on top of that. And I have a lot of stories, I could continue to tell, but there's people like me with stories as well. And we just all want to be understood, and we just want to be heard.
Understood and heard. Yeah. Thank you so much, Shaletha. Thanks for sharing your stories. Thanks for being here and for being a leader in what we're doing here. So please join me in thanking Shaletha.